Hi. I haven't made a video for a while because I only want to make a video when it's kind of interesting what I'm doing, and I did something not so interesting. I can explain to you what I did though. Here I made an interface that describes all the client interactions with the server. So every operation that the client can do in terms of interacting with the server is in this interface. And I did that because I realized that my client code was just total spaghetti code. So that had to be cleaned up. Why? Because I want to implement this in another language. Probably it's going to be Dart and Flutter, I'm afraid. It's not that I want to do that, but it seems that the Go GUI situation is so dire that I will have to use some other framework. It could be Avalonia with Cache. No, it's called C#, right? Or it could be Flutter and Dart, and probably Flutter and Dart. Or maybe I will go for the Qt bindings for Go with a small business license. I don't know yet. But in any case, I wanted to clean up this so it's much easier to transfer it to another language and translate it. And so I was basically just converting the operations I had in the client already and cleaning them up and putting them in this implementation of the client endpoint here. Which was kind of boring. But I have something to show to you that you might find interesting. That is, here I have an example of a generic list widget in Fyne, because I'm still using Fyne for the prototype and will continue using it for a while. And here we have a structure that is generic. It takes any kind of type. The empty interface here is the only restriction, so there's no restriction. And it implements widget list and composes out of widget list. Now it has a list of items of the type and a view of items of the type and a mutex for synchronization. And then it has a filter function, a comparison function, and a display function and a template. Now, how does this work? So first of all, normally you would probably want to have a comparable here, not any. It's always a bad idea to use the empty interface. But in this case, I was kind of forced to use the empty interface and not comparable because I want to use this list with protocol buffer structs. And protocol buffer structs are, of course, automatically generated, and they don't implement comparable because you have to specify which fields you want to compare in which way. And well, protocol buffers don't know that. There's no way of specifying that in the protocol buffer description. So I have to provide my own comparison function and have to leave this unrestricted. So how does this work? Now, a Fyne list, if you have used them, you know that, uses three functions. The first one just returns the length of the list, so that's easy. That will be the length of the view here. The second one provides a template. That's also easy here because I just return my template. And when I construct the list, I provide the display function and the template. And the template is a Fyne canvas object that is basically giving you the structure of what is displayed for each item. And then in the update item function of the list, I only have to use the display function. And the display function basically just puts whatever is in the item of this type into this template. And that's it. So it's very flexible and pretty simple. Other than that, I only have the set filter function, of course. I can set the filter. Then I have a way to set a comparison function for sorting. And then adding items, and in this case, setting all items once as a slice and clearing the list. And then here there's a private method, update view, that creates a new view. That's, of course, kind of expensive, lots of garbage collection here. And then it goes through the list of items. It applies the filter. If the filter function returns true, then it's added in the view. And then, in the end, if the comparison function is available, we can sort the slice. And that's going to be the view, and the view is going to be displayed. Now, there might be a need for adding a refreshing, but in general, this list automatically displays all the items without further ado. So that's a neat way of displaying any kind of item in a list like that, in a list widget like that. Maybe the authors of Fyne would be willing to add something like that as a basic type, it seems quite reasonable to use generic constructions like this for these kind of widgets. I mean, there are many strange omissions in Fyne. The most annoying one I've seen is actually that they don't have any of the mouse clicking and hovering in most of the widgets. And you can add them yourself. For instance, here in Click Label, you have to create your own label that extends the Fyne label. You can add an on-tapped and on-double-tapped function. In this case, I use the PointEvent because I need it, for instance, for context menus. And there's no other way of getting the mouse position, or at least not an easy one. And then you have to implement tapped and double-tapped just to get this clicking or right-clicking or double-tapping on mobile devices. So that's, in my opinion, quite annoying that they don't just have this in this label already, because there are so many use cases where you want to have it. But as you can see, it's very easy to implement too. Now, as for the list, I've put a link to this in the description. It's proprietary, but of course I share this with you if you want to use this. And it's on this Google Playground here. So I hope you found this interesting and see you another time. Bye.